Welcome to another edition of Set the Trend podcast, where we look to document street sounds history over the last 30 plus years, where we invite guests on to talk about their story and to give us an insight into how it started, the then and the now. This week's guest is one that really inspires me because he's probably one of the first, as we know it, street sounds. But we'll get to that later. Well, in just a bit. But before that, EastEnder, how are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to the knowledge of extending our knowledge on the culture of the history, because this man seems to have a bit that we don't have.
The code, that's missing.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear it today.
Reggie, how are you, sir?
Likewise, the Matrix, and looking forward to hearing that, pieces of the puzzle that people just don't know about with the street sound culture.
So it's good to have you guys.
I'm excited,
yeah?
mate. Excited.
Good. So we're ready to fire some questions then.
Of course, 100%.
And on that, without further ado, welcome to Mikey D, original freshbeat, the forerunner for sounds like Rapattack. And we're going to have a conversation today. Welcome, Mikey D.
Nice to be here, finally.
You're looking all relaxed now, man. You're looking all relaxed around there.
You know what? It's not easy being here in front of the cameras, but yeah, I'm trying to just relax and speak it as it is, really,
As it is.
That's what we're about.
That means he wants to set the record straight.
Yeah.
No, you're putting words in my mouth.
No, look, we've had conversations from the start of Reggae Group Legends, and like we've done part 1, part 2, part 3. This man kept on elbowing me and saying, "Look, we're the originals. We started this," and I don't really know that much of the story.
But today we're going to find that out.
Today we're going to find out.
When you say that you're one of the originals,
Can I just correct you there?
Yeah.
I've never ever said we was the original.
one of the
No, we
originals.
said one of the
One of the.
Oh,
One of the
I
originals.
leave people to say what they want to say
Yeah, yeah.
based on their own experiences, because I don't profess to believe that I know every sound from every corner
that
of
time,
East,
yeah.
West, North, and South.
Because at that time anyway, you didn't, again, we have to say you didn't have no social media. It was, you were lucky if you had a telephone in the house. You probably would have to go to the telephone box.
Pages.
Transport wasn't that good from north to south to east to west. So you would have built up your own little community, which was West London. What part of West London?
Well, you would say northwest. I mean, but it's West London, northwest London, that whole area.
Yeah.
I grew up in Maida Vale, which is West London, West 9. So,
West 9.
but yeah, the Ladbroke Groves, Harlesden, Willesden, that's it. That's the whole.
So that was your community at
That's right.
at the time. So when you say that you're one of the originals, tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that. For
Well,
us, in
before-
terms of the
okay,
street
well-
sounds.
Well, before I get into that, I think I need to say that for me, my first introductory to music was probably about 14 and a half. First club that I would recognize as a real club was a club called West Hampstead Bursness. And lucky or unlucky for me, at that time, I was surrounded by guys that were probably 3-4 years older than me. So I always had this kind of little brother, look after him, and I used to always go in between two guys and turn my head just at the point of pay, because I probably was underage.
Yeah.
And, these clubs finish at 1
Was that
o'clock.
West Hampstead Bird's Nest? Right.
Yeah, so my first recollection of real music, in my opinion, or what I knew, was BT Express, all of those, Reuben Wilson.
Oh, that's in songs, yeah?
That was what I was listening to, and that's what I knew and understood. And obviously I was influenced by guys that were much older than me, and I didn't have no say because I wouldn't be allowed out. These guys would come to my mum and say, "He'll be all right, we'll get him home by 11. And it was based on them escorting me there and back. If I didn't get that, I wasn't going out. And lucky enough, it was around about the school holiday time when I started, getting in that introductory. So that's where it all started for me. So I was always originally a soul head. Didn't really ever go to a reggae club. Didn't understand it. Obviously reggae from the radio, but not to the point where I could say reggae was my foundation. So that's where it all started for me.
A lot of our guests starts in sound systems. Did Did you start in a sound system? Did you have your own sound? Was you a DJ?
No, I don't know what it was. It just seems that everybody at that time was subject to music, from mum playing in the background. And I wouldn't say my mum or my dad was really into soul. I think it was the normal blue beats and the normal reggae and, you know.
Was there any sounds around at the time when you were 14 and a half that you really either heard of or was really saying one at the time, you know, making a noise?
I think it would be probably about, by the time I got to about 15 and a half, 16, I really started understanding sound. How that happened for me was about 75, 76, a good friend of mine, which we're still friends together now, he moved from South London to West London, and those days we used to sort of hang out on the street corners and talk and play a bit of football and whatever. So one day we kept on seeing this guy appearing on a corner, old Coogan hat, the Farrah slacks. You know, to us that was a bit kind of intimidating because it was like rebel versus majority of us, we were all going to soul clubs. So he stood out. And I remember he turned up with these Kung Fu slippers and he had the Kung Fu sticks. So obviously we got talking, he started showing us this Kung Fu stuff. We got talking, he said he's from South London. So obviously he grew up in the real rough part of town and was into reggae. So we started taking him to soul clubs and he was just like blown away because obviously totally relaxed atmosphere. People throw their bags on the floor just having a good time. And in turn...
What kind of people went there? What kind of makeup was it?
Well, I suppose it was more cosmopolitan then, mixture, you know what I mean? White, all sorts of people, but the music was soul, funk. You know, it was nothing else other than that.
Do you think that's down to the fact that it's more Maida Vale, that area?
But I didn't just go to raised in Maida Vale.
Yeah, but as in like, because of that area, location. Hampstead, made of that location was
That's a hard
synonymous.
one to work out because I think, like I said, I weren't able to go out without certain groups of people vouching for me, and they just happened to be into that music. So it could have been the opposite way. It could have been somebody that's more reggae orientated, and that would have been what it was. But that was how it fell for me, you know? So I didn't really know anything else apart from soul, funk, as my initially getting into the whole thing at that point. So it's hard to kind of say whether, and I don't know, when you think about it, Harrow Road, West London in general, I think it's quite reggae orientated. It's always been really reggae. So it's kind of weird, you know, that I just happened to be around these guys that were really all into soul. And that's where it happened for me. But once I met with this guy, Neville, which is my good friend now, we took him to places. And in turn, my first reggae blues dance that I went to, I was terrified. And I was on Relton Road, Brixton.
Oh, wow.
I was listening to Small Axe, Supertone, and the Eunice in a blues dance. So you can imagine me dressed up as a soul head with my soul gear on, and I'm in this dance like that, and my friend is giving me the rundown.
So by blues dance, you mean it was a house party?
Not a house party. I'm talking about blues dance.
Shubeens.
Shubeen, you know, like
At the bottom of a shop, was it at the bottom of a shop or
dark,
something? Yeah.
people looking militant, and you just got the rundown. Don't stand on nobody's foot, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, wow. So for me, if you try to imagine, I've never been in that type of environment. So I wasn't scared, but because I felt like my friend knew so many people in South London, all of the so-called people that you need to know, he knew them. So we was okay, but for me, it was like...
A little bit intimidating.
Very, because it's like I'd never been in such a sort of hostile environment, because it just came across that way, because everybody just never smiled. Everybody was like, it was the war zone, but the music was just like, can you imagine what was going on musically? You know, the Dennis Browns and the chatting on the mic and the whole sound business. And we just kept on going like that for about a year or so, and before you know it, I was just doing everything. I was still going to soul clubs, the WAG and all the rest of it, you know, Amlam's, Scamps, you name it. And at the same time, I was getting taken to these dances, and I got introduced to people like Lord David, you had Coxsone, you had Shaka, you had Martin Bassa, you had Safra, you had... There was so much sounds that I was listening to. So that's where it all kind of started.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned about places like the WAG, because we're doing obviously a lot about this whole street sound scene, but a lot of people who come up in conversation, like Trevor Nelson and a few others, Paul Trouble-Anderson, that was kind of like their home of playing music as well. What were the differences that you saw back in the day for someone like the WAG and maybe Supertone version, which I was one of the box boys for Supertone actually. Big up Wally and Mega T, Jockey Myra and all that stuff. So what was my question? I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
What was the difference? So what did you take out of, so when you was going to the soul dances, what was you taking out of that?
It's a hard question to answer. I think if you look at predominantly the 70s, it was a time of struggle, isn't it? You know, in terms of generally black people knew that they were under pressure. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So I think the music, whether it be funk, reggae, everything had a message in its own way. So I think whether you was on the left or the right side, I think, we used to go and dance, shuffle. It's a way of expressing yourself, isn't it? It's dealing with whatever you have to deal with. And I think as well, which is more important, when you think about music those days, it wasn't available. People take it for granted now. It wasn't available. What I mean by that, you'd have specialist shows. You might have a Robbie Vincent on a Saturday. You might have
Greg Edwards.
Greg Redwoods. You might have a reggae show on a Sunday, and then that's it.
So this was before the Pirates came about, wasn't
exactly.
it?
So basically, if you were into music or you into going out, obviously at that age, you have to have an outlet. Everything that you learned was based on going out, whether it be reggae, soul. So that was it, because you never had nothing else.
So where did you start buying music then?
First, I weren't collecting that early. I would say that I remember my first record. It was a disco dub band, right? I bought a 7-inch by the disco dub band, yeah? I think it was called Same Beat or something. I can't remember what it's called now. And I went to a shop called Cool Tempo Records. I don't know if you remember it, in Tottenham Court Road, yeah? Now, this is to show you how long ago it was. When I bought that 7, there was no such thing as 12 inches. It was either albums or 7s. There was no such thing as a 12-inch. It didn't exist. It didn't exist. It was just that. But I've always found myself buying albums over 7s at that time, because I always used to feel that there's always going to be a track on that album that I would like later on. So I bought albums predominantly.
So was you buying it with the view to starting your own sound, or was you just buying it as a view to being a collector?
I think it was more the fact that I just used to enjoy music. And one of the best clubs at the time, which, this is later on in my career, was Ronnie Scott's, in terms of musically, where you got the education of real music, was Ronnie Scott's. And I think that encouraged most people to want to go and buy music, just the ones that you liked. But I weren't even contemplating sound business, being a collector. I just didn't have, I don't think I thought of it like that. I enjoyed music, but not like that.
So when did it start then? So when did you, so there must have been a point where you said...
Right, so for me, where it all started is kind of weird. So I would say about 78, 79, somewhere like that. Me and a couple of guys that I used to sort of move around with when I was younger, we decided to put a little sound together. It was called Savoy. Savoy. Just like the
hotel.
West End Hotel,
Savoy,
right?
yeah.
We used to just play in parties and all the rest of it. And we did play with one sound called Jama. I don't know if people remember that sound. There was Java, but there was also a sound in West London called Jama. And they were quite big at the time. And we played in a club called Burton's in Cricklewood. We played with them. So, cutting a long story short, when I first left school, I did start doing tailoring, and then I left that and went into carpentry. So there I was, handy with my hands, and we started building these boxes and got this little sound together, playing in parties and all the rest of it.
Oh, so you built your own scoops?
Yeah, so I built my own equipment, got this stuff together, playing in predominantly parties, weddings, and so on. So that was.
How did you get the money to buy all that stuff? Because there must have been, apart from the wood, which you might have been able to get through your work, was that your
There was like 3 of us involved, and I think it's like everything else. You go to work, you work a bit, you buy the one speaker, you know what I'm trying to say to you. And those days it was a case of anything that made noise went in a box, right? It wasn't like you had the understanding of what a sound is. But yeah, we were doing all right. We was getting, those days people were just having parties like left, right and centre. So
you was the
it's quite
go-to
easy
for
to get
the
into
party
that
music,
because
yeah.
it was always a party in somebody's house.
Was that
And
like the Ladbroke Grove, All Saints
well,
Road scene?
I played all over, east,
Right.
west, north, south, because it was always a family member or a friend of a friend was having a party.
Which is very
You know what it was
unusual.
like.
That's
I
very
mean, we
unusual for
wouldn't even
DJs
get paid
at that time.
necessarily.
Yeah.
But that was the climate. Again, you have to rewind and realise there wasn't really a lot going on in terms of socialising. So people
Parties.
just put parties on.
Parties, yeah.
Everybody had a party, a birthday party or something. So a lot of DJs and sounds kind of come from that era when that's where they done their practice, right? In the parties and so on.
So when did it change for you from your sound there into going into freshbeat? So why did you change, or was it just a rebrand?
Well, what happened was, I think I clearly started enjoying the whole equipment thing and the sounds, and I started supporting Coxsone because I think those days it was almost
Yeah, this is
like,
where me and you're gonna fall out, right?
no, but sorry. I know you're going to tell me about
Saxon, yes, of
great
course. Yeah,
sound.
but go on, yeah.
But what happened was, I think those days it was weird because you almost had to support a sound. It was like a football team.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah.
when you went to a dance, like, who are you for? Who are you for?
Yeah, yeah.
And there was one dub that Coxsone used to play, or Festus used to play, from Creation. And when I used to hear that dub, I used to think, that sound, that done it for me. So that was my sound.
So was you looking with a view of going into reggae then?
No,
as a sound?
again, I was just like enjoying whatever
Music,
it was.
enjoying,
Just the
yeah.
atmosphere, the challenge, the clashes, the whole chatting on the mic. And I was kind of intrigued with the sound aspect of it. So I still weren't thinking DJing, even though I was playing in the sound, I was still thinking more equipment, the sound, the whole thing, not just being a DJ. I still weren't thinking collecting big. I was buying music because obviously we were playing in parties, so we were buying soul, lovers rock, all the rest of it. And then as time went on, I got into it, really got into it, wanted to get bigger. Guys I was with at the time didn't really want to take it to the next level. So we sort of drifted. And on my journey, it's really weird because I met up with a guy named Patrick-Drayton who was with, who knew Skanker. And that's how I actually got introduced to Skanker. So whilst I was in that point of playing in parties, Skanker and Patrick actually used to chat, well, not used to, they came to quite a few parties and used to chat on the mic. So this is way before Funkadelic.
Oh, wow.
That's just to show you how long ago
Yeah.
I was playing in parties. And then again, during that cycle, I met up with Jesus. That was, actually, when I first met Jesus, it was in Acklam Hall, which they called afterwards Subterranea. So it was Saxon, no, it was Shaka, because Saxon weren't around then. It was Saxon, it was Coxsone and Shaka. I remember one night going to listen to them, and I got into this debate with this Rasta guy afterwards, like, who played the baddest stuff? No, we killed you that. So it was all of that. So this guy would end up being my daughter's godfather. That's to show you how mad the whole world is. And that was Justice from Coxsone. So I got chatting with him. Maybe 5-6 months later on, I saw him at a dance. What are you doing behind Coxsone? But you said that you're Shaka. You was all about Shaka. Now he's behind Coxsone. So we exchanged numbers. We got talking. And then we kept in touch. That carried on. The sound that I was in kind of slowly dwindled away. I still had all the equipment. Anyway, moving on to freshbeat, about 83, 84, early 84, I would say. We was out at the WAG one night, me, Allaister from Rapattack, my brother. And by the way, my brother maintained the soul head. He never ever stepped on the other side. So I still would go out with my brother and so on, but I was kind of half and half going and doing everything. So one night we've gone out, and typical at that time, you would leave a club at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, nowhere to go. You want some music.
How much was it to get in the clubs at the time?
I don't know, a couple of quid. I can't remember what it was, to be fair.
Especially places like the WAG.
Yeah.
That must have been quite expensive.
£1.
Yeah.
Well,
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it was that expensive. It wasn't like...
Do you know what? It's so funny because, sorry to deviate slightly, but back in the day, the West End scene was kind of like, at one point, a bit of a ghetto scene, right?
Yes
No?
and no, but it's weird because it
Especially
just seems like
around there, Soho.
when it comes to soul, it just seemed like the West End. I knew every lane in the West End because it was just you'd walk out of Crackers, you go around the corner, it'd be Shaka, it'd be whatever. They all
Yeah, but what I'm
seemed
trying
be-
to allude to is that it didn't always have that kind of like appeal, and prestige.
No, it
from the
wasn't
West
like
End
a Browns or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't go down there thinking it was,
West End was perceived as more of a ghetto, wasn't it? Because like Soho was always seen as a seedy type area, so it was pretty cheap to party in the West
yeah, I
End.
think
at
it
the
was
time.
relatively cheap. But at the same time, we weren't even thinking like that because when you think about it, you're young and you're just going out to have fun and it's girls and it's being out. End of story. You just didn't look at things in that kind of way. So
Was this at the weekend or was it in the weekdays?
predominantly the weekend, but we would have certain clubs that you might go to like on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Like for example, a Thursday was always Hammersmith Palais first. The music was like rock and roll, couple of soul songs, but it was just to kill the ice. Then we'd go to Scott's. And I wasn't driving. We was all going on the train and walking home, getting the night bus. But it was what people do
Those
now.
are fun
wasn't
things
it,
at the
really?
time, yeah.
It was just, that was the place to be, and you just found a way to get there.
So you've now created Freshbeat. What was the thinking behind that
Well,
sound?
what happened
man?
with
So what was the
Freshbeat
direction
really
that you wanted
weird
to take it in?
because what happened was me, Allaister, my brother went out one night and we came out of this club and was like, you're kind of hungry for more music. And at that time I used to sort of smoke the old blah, blah, blah. And Allaister used to smoke, my brother never smoked. So I guess we wanted to go somewhere to be able to do that. So we ended up finding this shebeen in West London, not far from where I live. And we've gone there, and it was a typical scenario where you're getting 99.9% reggae, and every time you go and ask a DJ to play a soul song, it would be like the most commercial song.
Which was what at the time?
Madonna.
No, not Madonna.
Really?
Diana Ross or something like that.
It was really like cheesy. You know what I'm trying to say? It weren't like,
Gloria Gaynor.
we would actually take the mic because we'd ask for songs where they know that they never go. Like, what's that?
They wouldn't have, yeah.
And we're sitting down there. It's like, you know what? That was where it started. We just literally said, why don't we do a soul shebeen and reverse the whole thing? Let's make the reggae guy ask for one song and let that be the commercial break. And that was the concept.
So before you went into that concept, what sounds was around at that time for you?
Those times it was like, I used to go to, they had Paddington Terror, we used to play in blues dances. They had Java. They had Chris Sweeney had his sound. He was, he had his sound then. You had
Which
loads
was
of sounds.
Winner Roadshow, yeah?
Huh?
Chris Sweeney sound.
Yeah, Chris Sweeney used to have a...
Winner Roadshow.
Winner Roadshow was reggae when Chris Sweeney was. Yeah, so those guys were all big men to us.
A Mastermind
You know
was
what I mean?
around them time.
Mastermind was hip-hop.
TNT.
TNT, no, I didn't know Danny Dehaney at that time.
Okay.
TNT came out after us, but they weren't around at that time. Not as far as I know anyway.
Okay, so so you've got...
But
so
there
you
was
said-
loads of reggae sounds, Suggestus, like Lord David. In terms of souls, normanjay was around when we came out, but he wasn't really that busy. He wasn't packing dances out or doing anything
Good Times.
special. Good Times. He was under Good Times then.
And he wasn't playing in shubeens.
And he wasn't on the radio.
He would play in like parties and whatever, but I've not known it. I didn't know Norman to ever play in a sort of big house dance where you said, "Oh, it was iconic," that you remembered. You had as well. You had those are the sounds that I kind of remember. It wasn't a lot. It was predominantly reggae still, and like I said, Soul Incorporated used to sort of play out with a lot of the reggae sounds, but quite disco-y in terms of what I would regard as soul.
So how far after you went to that shubeens did you then play out in a soul
Literally within
shubeen?
a couple of weeks, we found a girl that allowed us to have a party. It was like one room. We got that full straight away. And fun enough, we done what we said because we played majority soul and we played some reggae, but we just didn't play a lot. But it was really weird because we didn't anticipate what was going to happen within the next couple of dances. Literally within about 3 months, we was playing in a 5-6 bedroom house. And when I tell you, we looked outside and we were frightened in terms of triple parking. It was just mental.
Never seen anything like that before.
When I tell you, it's like we didn't actually, we'd never for 1 minute believed that we was going to cause such a, it was...
Who was the promoter at the time? Was you?
We were just doing our own thing. So it's literally me, my brother, Allaister. Because obviously I had the background, so I had the background of the sound system because I'd kind of gone on the other side and come back. So I had that kind of, you know, clash. I had the sound system mentality. So all the equipment, because I had the sound before, I had my little boxes already. So I just had to do a few things. So that was the sound there. Allaister kind of used to rap a little bit and chat on the mic. So that was that. He played music as well. My brother had all of his original tunes from way back. I had tunes because I was playing in the sound. So the package, all of us had something to bring to the table. But like I said, we didn't anticipate what was going to happen.
So how much was you charging to come in that party?
We were charging £1 to get in. We literally charged £1.
And you had the bar as well.
But we had the bar. So the emphasis was never on the gate. The emphasis was always on the bar.
So how was you promoting it?
You know what? We were one of the first to, what we used to do, we used to cut out of newspapers, or if we wanted to say freshbeat, we would type it out, cut it out and stick it on paper.
Okay.
And then go to the printers. We'd get a girl or something, put it in the corner. We were one of the first to do that. Get a girl, put it on there, and then literally
you got the sexiest looking girl, right?
Go to the printers, and they would print it, and that was it. It just be cut. It just be paper. But that's what
that's
we started.
the invite. That's the promotional leaflet.
We also used to do A4 size. We used to go East London, West London. We used to get the old flour with water, stick it up on the wall.
Oh, okay. So you're doing fly posting?
All of that. Yeah. So, and then we made a decision that we were going to play out every 2 weeks. So people, when you go to the clubs, they'd be like, where is it? Where is it? So we would almost keep the date back to the last minute, because obviously we were doing illegal stuff. We weren't going in legal houses after a while, because the girlfriend or the friend of the friend's house was no longer big enough to cater for what we was doing. So we had to start doing illegal dances.
What was the biggest house? What was the biggest house party?
One of the biggest houses, we played in loads, but one of the biggest houses we ever played in was Acton. That was it was 3-story house. We initially had the middle and the first floor. It was so packed, we had to kick the door off the next flat. We didn't put boxes in there, but just to let the people flow in there.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And those houses were like huge.
And
right?
we were famous that night because the police came and they started filming, because if we kind of rewind back, that was kind of, maybe 5-6 months in. We had a situation where we was playing in Sherland Road in Maida Vale one night, and by now it's like, we're causing a storm. So one night I was in the dance, and I'm now not really playing music that much, because what's happened is that by default, we're so packed, I'm walking between the door, looking after the speakers, and making sure I'm going to the bar. If we run out of drinks, I'm running down to Aries.
Taking that bar money out, yeah?
So what time was this? So in terms of start time for your blues dance, it would have been
we
what?
Would say that people generally come out relatively early. So I would say 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock. By 12 o'clock, 12:30.
In this jam.
It's jam. And then you got the morning, 4 o'clock. You got
what songs was being played at that time?
For us, we were playing... Basically, we were playing new music. The sound was called freshbeat, and the basis of that was new music. But then, in saying that, we were playing across the tracks. We were bringing beats to
Across the Tracks was new at the time, no?
No. Across the Tracks was an old song, but we used to drop those tunes in between.
Some of the new tunes.
I Found Lovin', all of those tunes. Clear, I Found Lovin', SOS Band, Don Blackman. Don Blackman weren't new, but we were playing the SOS Band, we were playing, Star Point, all of those stuff we was playing.
So those songs...
We was dropping the Don Blackmans, we were dropping the Ladies 80s, we were dropping all of those tunes.
Was you hearing those songs by other sounds, DJs at the time, or was it just going into your record shop, hearing those songs and saying, I've got to
It was
play
a
this
bit
tonight.
of both, but then don't forget, when you go to some of the clubs I was going to, and you're listening to people like, you know, Steve Gervier and I can mention all the names. People don't realize they just had this concept that it was all funk. No, because if they were in a house party, they would play those tunes. So people think it's new. It's not new. You know what I mean? So those were standard collections to us. We know about those tunes. It's not just funk and, you know, pop or whatever you want to. It was boogie. It was grooves. It was, you know, turned onto you, you know, like Gary Bars. We was playing all of those tunes. We were going to clubs, listening to those tunes, and we were bringing them to the table on the night. But obviously...
Was it... Sorry to cut you, but was some of them termed rare groove at that time? Some of your tracks?
I don't think the word rare groove came in until it became more kind of, if I want to say, kind of reggae-fied. And then it's almost like they wanted to bring a term to it. Because to me, when somebody says rare groove to me, I still look at it as that rare groove is what it is. Rare, as in the word rare, something hard to get, and groove as in music. So to me, I don't classify rare groove as a sound. It cannot be.
But
to me,
you know, rare groove has different meanings to different people, which is part of the problem.
well, I'm not trying to take away what anybody wants to perceive as rare groove. I'm just saying, in my opinion, I don't think if you spoke to Norman, if you spoke to Trevor, any of those guys, they would ever look at rare groove as a two-step thing. You think about it, Rare One, when they came out with all of these rare groove albums, Rare One, Rare Two, it had Shake It Up on it, it had other tunes on it, it had boogie tunes on there that they were calling rare groove. They didn't classify it as a particular, oh, it's got to have a particular drop. I also hear people saying rare groove cannot be 80s or 90s. Well, how much is an Asher album now? There's a particular Asher album that's selling for £200.
Yeah.
Technically, at some given point, if somebody's starting the game now, why wouldn't they call it Usher song Rare Groove in time to come? So to me, they're stifling the business because what they've done is they've almost...
Which actual album is that? Is £200?
It's Confessions. Confessions on
Confession on
Sure,
vinyl, double album. It's going for about 200 quid.
Confessions on
What are you talking about?
On vinyl.
Yeah.
But it's
Okay.
not going for
Well,
200 quid. There's a madman on Discog selling it for.
Oh,
200.
okay. So he's
Well,
trying
put
to
this
set
way,
the
Yeah,
market.
he's setting the market
Right,
price.
okay. I was
If
trying
he
to say
gets
because I've
it,
got about 4 or 5 of
But
those.
if
you
he
know
gets
what?
it and it continues to sell, then you can say, yeah, it's worth
gotta
that.
give
But
Martin a
you
call.
laugh about it, but what you got to understand, it's nothing to us because we were playing them tunes like it's nothing.
Yeah.
But to somebody that's starting the game now, that they're passionate about music and they are the new tomorrow,
Hard to find, hard to get, yeah.
they want those tunes to play. So if they don't have it, they have to buy it.
So what were your records as Freshbeat that you would say you championed as rare, hard to find music? Is that something that you
Or what
would
was your
make?
anthem?
Yeah. Would you make a
Put
big
this way,
deal about it?
we didn't have an anthem per se, but we were playing, like I said, I mean, there's an argument out there amongst the DJs who know. Normanjay has made, well, not Normanjay, he almost got this title. He was across the tracks. Not quite sure. I can tell you the story. He actually, because Tim Westwood, Normanjay, you name it, all of them used to come to our dance. Soul to Soul, I played with him. I don't know why they don't reference us when they have their things, but they don't. But that's up to them.
What, they came to you as
No, they
you
used
was
to-
a market
they-
leader
they-
at the
no,
time
I just think
Do you know what?
we
In
were
saying
doing
that-
what we were doing, and it was the place to be, and they used to be there.
I remember Westwood actually doing a TV interview. I think it was for The Word, and I'm sure I remember him mentioning Freshbeat.
Yeah,
the
Westwood,
sound.
Tim Westwood, when he got on Capitol eventually, there used to be a code, because he used to say, "You know where it's at tonight."
Was that your?
That was our jam. He would give out the address to people that called him. You understand what I'm saying? So we were out there. Normanjay, all of those guys used to come to our dance, but those weren't the days when people were like hiding music. If Norman came or we went, you know what it's like. Those days it was nothing. Oh, what's that? You give him the album or you give him the 7. It wasn't like this. Oh, don't.
So
tell
this
him,
was the beginning.
hide the label.
This was the beginning of what we call rare groove.
I don't know how the rare groove thing came about, to be honest with you, because I can't say that we were doing what you know, the touch of classes were doing, because we weren't.
But-
you know what I mean?
But your avenue, because you said you was one of the first the soul blues dance. Who followed that avenue after Freshbeat?
Well, put it this way, what happened was kind of weird because, as I said, I kind of disassociated myself with playing music for obvious reasons. The dancers were so busy and we had to have somebody to sort of marshal the door and the bar and keep things running. So I kind of left my brother and Allaister to play the music. I don't know what happened, but all I know is we ended up at the next dance 2 weeks later. There was no Allaister. So it's like, what's happened to Allaister? Blah, blah, blah. So my brother was really into music. Allaister's always, no disrespect, has always been very commercial in terms of even at Rapattack in their heights, Allaister's more about...
Because he went on to form...
Because he went on to form... worked in a mix, he would play it. That's it. He wasn't... Allaister wasn't playing Don Blackman and across the tracks in those days. He didn't have it. So I think my brother used to get a bit frustrated with the fact that he wanted to be a bit more deeper. I don't know if that was part of the argument. But anyway, Allaister was kind of a bit naughty. So he defected and he didn't turn up when we carried on doing what we were doing.
And he went to start Rapattack.
Right. So no, what happened was actually, just about that time, 6 months in, Cheddar found out it was me that was involved in these dances.
Cheddar, big promoter, right? West
Right.
London, yeah.
And Cheddar was he was the...
Well,
Numero
Cheddar was Mr. Ladbroke Grove, but then don't forget, if you go back to this reggae thing, I used to go down the Grove and smoke my little whatever. So I knew the Grove guys because I was part of that sort of thing. So I knew them, they knew me. I used to go to all the reggae clubs, so I know all of them. I'm West London, they're West London. Yeah. So it's like, oh, that's Mikey, what? Rah, rah, rah. So next minute, my daughter's mum is married to his cousin. So obviously, what was Michael? Give me his number. So we met up. I want to book you guys, blah, blah, blah. So I said, no problem. Obviously, he wants to give us a couple £100. Why would we do that? We've got 600 people in a house. We've got the bar and the door.
£1 a piece.
We're not mugs.
600 people.
So I turned around and obviously I know what's been made on the door. So I said, I want £800.
£800?
Yes, or you give us the door.
At that time, so how much was it to get in a dance?
£1.
We were charging £1.
600 people in there.
But you had the bar as well, though.
Yeah, but don't understand what I'm saying. We were charging £1 to get in, and we were making
£800 on the door.
800 to £1,000 on the door alone throughout the night. So as far as I'm concerned, you're not going to come and jump on the bandwagon
And give you £200.
and give me £200. You're
you
not
get
having
that?
the door and not having the bar. We're bossy at the time because we are getting the venues. So why would I go and sell myself to you for £200 or £50 or whatever?
Okay, so what happened next?
So what happened was, Cheddar was like, well, all right, and I'm going to come back to you. But it's the timing now. This is why I say what is for you is for you and what is not for you. Obviously, Allaister's defected. Everybody sees the face promoting. They know Allaister's a part of it. I'm a part of it, my brother. Allaister's obviously, Cheddar's gone to him. He said, yeah, I'll do it for whatever.
£200.
So we used to play it every 2 weeks. So in between, when we're not playing out, yeah, you guys are out tonight. I said, what are you talking about? We're not out until next week. No, there's a leaflet saying that you're out tonight. Allaister's gone on the in-between times now.
As
Freshbeat.
As Rapattack.
As Freshbeat.
As
There's no
Freshbeat.
Rapattack yet. It's Freshbeat. So somebody gave me the ticket and I thought, no. So when I saw the ticket, I thought, Freshbeat? It was in West Kent. So what I've done is gone down there early. Because I'm not even thinking Rapattack or Allaister. I'm just thinking somebody's taking the mic. I've gone down to West Kensington early and I've walked in and I see Allaister's bopping his head. I thought, no. So I've gone up to him. I've taken him outside. I said, what's this? So then that's when I've learnt that him and my brothers had a falling out. And
He's gone his own
as
way.
far as he's concerned, because when we were brainstorming names, we decided on Freshbeat and that was the name that he put in the hat. It's his name. I said, no, you cannot do that. I said, you cannot take a name just on the basis that we've chosen that name out of 5 names. And that was Allaister's point. So I kind of like...
how did you resolve this then?
So what happened was, it was a nice kind of, well, don't be doing this. You're taking the mic. So the following week we would play out. Another leaflet comes up. Now it's Freshbeat playing here. Literally a mile up the road, Freshbeat's playing here. People are like...
What's going on here?
But then don't forget, who's outside the dances? It's the same people. So as far as they're concerned, they don't understand. They can't differentiate between Michael and Allaister or whoever, because as far as they're concerned, they're singing freshbeat. But the difference is now, he's got Ronnie, he's got Cheddar, he's got the whole of Grove behind him. And now everybody realizes, wow, there's money to be made. These soul dances are ram. Why are the reggae guys coming? Because the women, obscene, Chinese, Australian, who cares
mix.
about what music's being played?
Yeah.
There's women in there like sand that they've never seen before. So the whole of Grove is now in a freshbeat rave. The whole of Halson's in a freshbeat rave. But we've got the West End in there as well, because all of our places that we never ever went to a reggae club and promoted our dance. Wow. All of the places we went to.
And these are not
was
clubs, these
our
are
clubs.
houses. You're not
These
in
are
clubs, you're
houses,
still in houses.
rammed. But don't forget, we're being selective. We're playing in Meadowvale. We're playing in Warwick Avenue. We're playing in Swiss Cottage.
They've got these
We're not
nice
playing
big
in.
three-story
We're up
houses.
there now. But then the heat comes on. So basically, Cheddar and everybody jumped on the bandwagon. The time when Allaister chose to defect, it just worked out in his favour. Cheddar went with Allaister. Obviously, I don't know what he charged, but I can't see him charging what we were charging. And that was the beginning of the end in terms of us being together.
So when did he change the name though? Because
about-
there must still been a bit of.
So after the first two, I had to go on Wicked now, innit? So I had to give him the yard style now. Yeah. So I had to literally go there and say, brethren, one more time, and it's going to be different conversation. But don't forget, we're friends.
Yeah.
We're going back to when we was raving from. He used to come around my house and sleep and stay overnight.
So couldn't nothing have been resolved at that time? Couldn't someone have
don't
played
know.
Peacemaker?
I don't know what it was between him and my brother.
Well, you must
But
know now.
whatever it was.
You must know now.
You know what? Seriously, to be honest with you, not a lot of people got on with my brother. Even I was up and down. He was one of those,
One of those brothers, yeah?
Yeah, one of those brothers. You know, he was a hardcore. So I don't know to this day whatever it was that was so bad that they couldn't have resolved it. And perhaps if, in hindsight, had my brother gone to him and say, look, let's just sort this out. It's just silly. We got something good going on. Let's just stay together. It's never happened. Stubbornness. And then there was this competition now. It's like, you ain't got tune like us. You don't have tune like us. You don't have a sound like us. So we're always going to win. So eventually, what happened was Allaister had the whole of Ladbroke Grove in his dances packed. And then when you come to our dance, you're seeing the authentic soul. So we kept it going for a long time. And that's the separation. And then also, what was killing Allaister as well, everybody started realizing when it comes to music, you can't talk to us. Because like I said, we were playing the Don Blackmans, we were playing the Jeffreys, we were playing all of those tunes. And not everybody had those tunes. You saw me? We were playing across the tracks. Whereas Allaister, if anybody went to a Rapattack, you know what it's about. SOS band, blah, 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 mixing it
The
together.
stuff you could purchase now.
So that's where we were at. So we thought, well, we just carry on doing what we're doing. People will decide where they want to be, and it will sort itself out. But more bad luck was in sight. About 2 months after Allaister left, we started getting this weird thing. Every time we're playing out, Allaister's playing out. We get raided, Allaister's dance is still going on. It doesn't take a genius to work out there's some skullduggery going on now. And we're talking about we being Meadowvale, he being Ladbroke Grove. So it wasn't miles apart, you know. He'd be rammed, we'll be rammed.
So was that the beginning of the end for Freshbeat?
Yes and no. I kind of think we shot ourselves in the leg, but we were unlucky as well. So what would happen is, I can't remember what Pacific dance, if it was Warwick Avenue, I literally got a police officer called me and said, you know, come outside. The dance was going. I thought, right, they're going to raid us. So I've literally gone outside, sat in this guy's car, and he goes, I'm not going to do anything. I couldn't believe it. He had every single one of our tickets.
Wow.
For our previous dances. He goes, look, I know what you're doing. He goes, I'm getting a lot of heat. You've got to stop this. We were terrorizing the area. When I say every 2 weeks, it was mansions, big. And he literally said to me, you've got to stop this. But you know, you just don't take it serious. You just think, whatever. You know what I mean? So we carried on.
How many more dances did you do?
About 4 more dances. And we was in Salton Crescent, 7-bedroom house, packed. About 1:30, it's packed out already. By 2 o'clock, a big green van turned up. Police just came out there like sand.
Wow.
They just locked the dance down, took all of our drinks, took our music, took the sound, took the whole thing.
Apart from the cash.
And that was the end.
Yeah, well, literally, it was clever enough. I was able to run to the bar and say, look, just bum bags, get out the bars. It's a free party, sort of thing. Done all of that. They took everything. When I say music, drinks, the whole lot.
Why? Because you was just a social nuisance.
Because don't forget,
They gave you a warning.
in the end, I actually got charged with extracting electricity. Because those days, we used to just use the squatters' rights. We would know how to enter the buildings without showing any signs of breaking. And so long as you've got a key, they couldn't do nothing to you. So they would look around for signs of breaking, not see one.
Couldn't find
We
it
would
anymore.
literally have a key. There's a key. It's my mate's house. He's on holiday. He's a rich dude from blah, blah, blah. He said we can have a jam. That was the stories. They knew it was all BS.
But
so
couldn't prove it, yeah.
when it came on top, we actually got charged with extracting electricity. Because obviously, the minute time you plug in to somebody else's juice,
Yeah.
you are extracting electricity. So that is how they end up catching us on that. So with the fact they took the sound, the music, we would be fighting with them now for about 2 months to get our stuff back. It was just politics to stop us from doing what we were doing.
Did you get it back?
Eventually, but the damage, because now
So your
Alice
brand
is
was done,
going
yeah.
on like
Alistair
a
was-
gorgon.
Alistair was
You
on
understand
fire.
me?
Yeah.
And not only does Allaister, like I said, Ronnie's involved, Cheddar's involved, Bentley sprung up all of a sudden now, even though we're schoolmates from way back. Everybody is in on the act. Soul dance is the new thing. Maze, next minute Java comes out with a new sound called Maze. All of a sudden, there's a special edition. Where did they come from? I know Tipper. Those guys were reggae. All of a sudden, there's special edition now. Everybody's on, I'm a soul head now. The whole thing just went mad.
And they had mastered, so they were following your blueprint that you had laid.
Well, basically, we made them understand it could work because nobody had thought about that. Everybody was reggae. So until we came out and actually proved that it could happen, because like I said, these guys, majority of them would go to raves and those would be the guys that would be saying, no more soul.
A
All of
reggae
a
time
sudden
now.
now-
A reggae time. Yeah, so what time was that? So you're talking about what?
You're
1980
talking
what?
about 84, well, late 83, 84 going onwards.
So was Funky Express around at those
I
times?
don't know if they was right. I didn't know them. The only sounds I kind of knew on the soul tip, because I was kind of moving with Patrick Drayton, we'd lost distance, but when I used to go East London, I listened to Big GQ. I knew they was around.
They were Casual Affair at the time, right?
Yeah, I don't know what they were called, but I know, I used to
Vibrate,
go
yeah,
to
yeah.
some of those clubs where, you go and listen to guys were playing a mixture of soul and reggae, but nobody was playing hardcore
100%
funk
soul,
mixed with boogie, mixed with the fat back band, and nobody was playing across the board soul. Everybody had that kind of party soul, but not what we was doing. And we eventually got our equipment back, and one of the first guys to actually book us was Daddy Ernie. Because he kind of, we were still doing our own thing. We weren't really getting
What
called.
was he shot? Is it Hawkeye? What was Daddy
Hawkeye.
Ernie's shot?
He was in
Okay.
Hawkeye at that time.
Yeah.
So he used to do promotions, and he called us up one day, I want to book you. So he took us over Lewisham or somewhere. We played in Lewisham Town Hall. It was all right dance. Then, who else called us?
Was this after you would
Rick
come out of
Clark
the blues
called us
dancers?
when he used to be in
Sugar and
Sugar and
Spice.
Spice. They
Yeah.
called us. They took us over Bruce Grove. We played over there. We played with them twice. We played over in Bruce Grove, and we played in a place called Billy's. And was that place called Billy's on Tottenham, just on the roundabout?
Where's that?
There was a club
In
as you're
Tottenham?
going around the roundabout years ago in Tottenham. You go past anyway. We played in
Not the old
there.
temple.
No.
So that's how I met up with Rick Clark, and I met Hector Selector, because they were both like putting on dances. So we played with them a couple of times. So we were doing our thing still.
So that was when you were popular. Was that after you'd had the raid?
No, that was after we separated with Allaister. So even though we had our equipment taken away and it kind of crippled us, we still was getting out there, but it was becoming hard. And
Did you still have to supply your own sound in them raids, or was you playing off another sound?
no, we always had our own set.
So
I
you
always
had to
the
go and get
equipment.
that. Okay, cool.
I always had the equipment, but it's kind of weird because while that was going on now, I had this relationship with Jesus. So I think we played in the carnival one year, and he's come down to the carnival, and it's like, wow, it's heavy sound, man. You guys are heavy. Because again, the mentality was reggae, but I'm playing soul.
Yeah.
So the sound is no less than, you know, a Coxsone in terms of how we was putting it out there. And to us, we always felt that a good sound makes the music sound better. So if you got a tinny sound, no matter how good you play, it's always better vibes when the sound sounds good. So we kind of really pioneered ourselves on having really good quality equipment.
Did Freshbeat ever get an opportunity to play any of the all-dayers?
A couple of them, but the old days in those days were more kind of hip-hop kind of...
More commercial up
not really a lot. No, we didn't. We ended up we played in People's. We played in People's about 5 times. I can't remember all the sounds, but we played with a few. But initially, I would say that we really didn't. We kind of fought against really playing with other sounds, because the problem what we had was the sounds that was trying to call us. Like I think we ended up playing with Java one time in some place. The problem was it's that difference in real reggae and funk. It's like it don't work. So people thought we were stush. It wasn't that we were stush. It was just that we still was kind of like promoting to the West End. We were dealing with people that want to hear boogie, want to hear. So we weren't going to go in there and play a 2-step tune. But we had them because we were buying tunes that had the fast track and we had the other track, but we just wouldn't always play that.
Talking about tunes, you got a nice record collection, I've been told.
I suppose so.
What's your favourite gems in that, in your collection? That
I knew he was going to do that to me. My missus says to me all the time, "What's your favourite song?" I said, "I don't know." She goes, "But you must have a favourite song."
You must have a favourite
How
song.
can you have a favourite song when you got about 4,000 records and that's just old stuff, let alone all the new stuff? It's like, I don't like
talking about prices and what records are worth, cause it's like egos, and I'm not really into that stuff. But what's your favourite records in there that makes you feel proud?
It can change from day to day.
From today, what is it today?
Can you imagine that? It's a hard one. I think I can't answer that question. It's too hard. I like, you know what I mean? I can go in and
listen. Is it a funk record? More of a fast funk record, like Galaxy, that type of stuff?
I suppose one of my favourite records really has got to be BT Express, Do You Like It? Yeah?
Oh, okay.
I mean, I just remember that because, fun enough, that was one of the first records I kind of, really liked.
I saw you on the radio, on a Facebook Live, and you was doing a radio show, and you pulled out Carol Dion. No, you're smiling.
There's a story behind that record.
You're smiling.
There's a story behind that record.
That record must make you feel good.
There's a story.
It's worth it's a big money record, isn't it?
There is a story behind that record. So, hey, what's happening now? So obviously, as time's gone on, I used to sell music as well, but I never used to sell to individuals. I used to sell to record shops. So I used to sell to GM. That's how I met Trevor Nelson. Was it something T? Tony T? Is it Tony T that used to work in GM's? Forget the guy that used to be with Cass. Little T. Yeah. I met those guys there. Used to sell to Bluebirds. So on my quest of buying music, I met up with a guy named Charles. Yeah, and we got together, and we were responsible for 90% Is You. We were responsible for Little Beaver.
You made a record?
No, we basically...
You discovered it?
We brought that tune to the table because we found a batch. It was at the time only certain guys were playing it. We found a batch and we just distributed it to record shops. And that's how I used to build my collection. Sometime I'd go in with 20 pieces. So I'd probably only get paid for 5 because the rest of it was like, yeah, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. So if I went to Honest John, I'd look at the wall. 20 songs are on there. I've got 15. I want you to play all the 5 that I don't know. So over time, my collection was built that way. Even if I weren't playing in that arena, I still used to put the tunes them down because I just love music. And I don't want to have, I don't want to like miss out on something. But the Carol Dion was a funny one because way down the line, when Freshbeat kind of fizzled out, I met up with a guy named Carl, and I became the resident DJ in a club called Circa Bar Don't know if you remember it, Circle Bar down Russell Square.
Sounds like one of your clubs, Reggie.
Yeah,
I'm more
it was
Nemikoff
that kind of
these
club,
days.
yeah. So it was
Back
two.
in the
It
day,
was
you
two.
had windmills and
It was
few
two
other
floors.
places,
So I used to
yeah.
play in the R&B room,
I
and they used
see.
to have
Sorry, I see he isn't practicing social distancing from. He's giving you a hug round there.
Yeah, so
so you want to mind
they,
that.
used to have- they had two floors. I was in the R&B section, playing with Soul to Soul, and then downstairs I had Matt White, hip hop, blah blah blah. Steve Jervis used to play the guest DJs and whatever. So about that time, I kind of another career change. I got involved in working in a hairdressers or barbershop, stroke hairdressers in Fulham. About that time, my daughter was born about 78. Yeah, 77, 78. And I just got fed up with the inconsistency in the money that you would make selling music, even though it was my passion. So I went into barbering, didn't know much about it, but I was good at my hands and I got into it. Within 5-6 years, I'd bought this shop off this guy in Fulham, and that's how I met up with Blue Eyes from Charisma. Because one day a guy's come in, we're talking about music. I used to cut Femi's hair, I used to cut Neil Pinder's, I used to cut Neil Pinder's hair, all of these guys. So obviously, I kind of wasn't playing music that much, but I was still heavily involved in the equipment. And by then, I'd stopped making boxes. I got introduced to ASS boxes, and then we started the ASS thing, was using only ASS bins and whatever. And I met up with Neil Pinder. I'd done the Mary J. Blige after party. I'd done the equipment.
Which one was that one? Was that the
Millbanks.
one on the boat?
Millbanks.
Millbank, yes.
Yeah, I'd done the
Millbank.
equipment there. I'd done Joe the Sea in Battersea Park. I'd done the equipment there. I was working with Neil Pinder at the time, but I weren't really playing music. But I just kept my feet in there from the equipment hiring out. I used to also have my equipment in Starlight. So whoever played in Starlight at that time was played on my set. But I just always used to keep myself in the background. I just never felt the need
To promote
be
yourself.
up front. I just kept myself in the business, and then I still was selling music. I used to sell to, go to record fairs and whatever, sell bits and pieces. But it wasn't my main thing.
So do
I
you
just
feel
kept
you
myself.
lost your passion for playing the music itself? Was there anything that
I didn't
happened
lose
that was
it, but I just
defining?
think, for me, it was always sound business, not just music. So to me, both of them came hand in hand. So even if one wasn't working for me, the other one was working for me. So it didn't really matter to me. Yes, if I got the chance to go on the decks, I would go on the decks. I worked with Steve Jervis. We used to play in Eaton Square and all of these places. So, even down to Paul Trouble Anderson played on our set in a couple of our dances. So, all of those guys, I know them well.
Do you know what I want to know? When did you must have been part or been around when that whole West London scene changed from kind of like being cool house party, trendy, cool house party stuff to being that trendy Notting Hill that it is today. What are your thoughts about the change that happened from back in the day?
I
to
think
now?
about that time, like I said, I'm only talking about West London, yeah? I think at that time, we woke up a lot of people. For example, Normanjay. Normanjay weren't doing that much at that time, even though he was around before us. In fact, Normanjay used to print some of our leaflets for our dancers.
What, the
'cause
same one?
He was a printer. So what we used to do, go to his house on a Thursday in Acton, and we'd give him this set out, and he would print it. So that's how much we know Normanjay. We'd sit in his house with him, and he'd print. And I think with us waking up the scene, Norman started playing out again, but then, like I said, it's about the right place, the right time, the right people. He got involved with judgejoules and all of these guys, yeah? Once he got involved with judgejoules, the whole shake and finger pop thing happened.
So
but the difference is now, you're with a middle class, rich white guy that's now taking you to Hampstead to play. And you're not going to get raided because these guys judge Jules, yeah? So all of a sudden, it's no longer the good times, it's shake and finger pop. So you all now have got the music, but you're surrounded by the right people that's going to put you where you need to be. And that's the difference. So it's just like life, isn't it? If you're lucky enough to get the right person to promote you or to see the good in you, that's the difference with making it and not making it. So the Trevor, we know the story, he's done well with himself, but that's how I think we changed it, because we made those guys wake up to the fact that it can work.
So the modern day equivalent of that would be like the way Peckham and Shoreditch has changed over the years, where you had like the South London, sound systems, which predominantly kind of like dominated the underground, and then became gentrified, so to speak, like Shoreditch, which became gentrified as well, and became a lot more of the cooler hipster sound systems playing.
Yeah, I apart from what I just said, I think more so for me, I think we was also involved in a movement in an indirect way, because like I said, at that time, there was a starvation in terms of music being available. So people were getting fed up of the fact that we couldn't turn on the radio and just listen to R&B like we listen to it now. People don't realize that. They take it for granted that music is so easy now. It wasn't like that. Yeah. So when KISS came about, Tosca came to us and said, we want you to be on KISS because we want to make a statement. We want to start playing music, our music, to people. Because if you didn't go out, you wouldn't know what the songs were.
So
because there was no media that was playing music for you to know what is going on.
Apart from BBC London.
Well, exactly. So
okay,
that whole sound
But that was
thing,
KISS the pirate station.
Well, the pirate station, when you think about it, they came about middle 80s. You think about what was going on before that. It was that time when KISS, Tosca, all of these guys said, we've had enough of this. Because it was literally meetings saying, we want to be recognized. We want our music to be heard. You cannot tell me that if the only way you can hear our music is to go to a club or go to some shebeen or some dive to hear real music, because it wasn't happening. The Radio 1s, the Capitals were not playing black music. They would give you a slot, Froggy or whoever would have a slot, but that was it. So people got to understand, all of those guys that played in the 70s, 80s coming up, we've paved the way to make music's already available now. People don't see that. So
and for our scene directly, the latest, the Touch of Class, the Funkadelics, the GQs, the Studio Expresses, the Fifth Avenue, the Special Touches, the Ratties, directly benefited from your vision.
Because unfortunately, the reality of it is that if you look at the people that are up there, if you look at people like, all right, look at the A&R people, for example. All the A&R people that I know were on my scene. They made it. They changed certain things, even though they're not on the two-step scene. You had people like Steve Jervier. You had Mikey D. Mikey D was at Warner Brothers. You had, I can't even remember the names. All
Even
of the
Jerry
guys
Baskin,
all of the guys that was able to make a change was on the soul funk scene. And Trevor Nelson made it. Normanjay made it. All of those, they didn't make it. They knew the guys that were up there to make the difference. So when you think about it, they set the stage to make music easier. And all the pirate stations that started coming up, it was just a collaboration of lots of people saying, we've had enough. And that's how the, LWR, all of these stations started popping up, because there was literally this kind of atmosphere where it was like, enough now. We want to hear our music. And that was the beginning of it all.
An underground movement.
Yeah, and that's where it started. And when you think about it, reggae was always kind of there, but the soul wasn't getting a look in. A lot of these stations started playing soul throughout the night. People's like, wow, Hudson One, where's all these tunes coming from? People were just playing what they were playing in the parties, but nobody knew it because it wasn't available if you didn't go out. And then I think everybody just went mad soul. So sort of 80s going up, it was like soul is it's like, yes.
Soul is the new food. The new food. But on that, I was gone. And I think there's just so much more that we wanted to get into about Freshbeat and their contribution to our scene. I think we learnt a lot. Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Because 5-star general, I didn't give the 5-star general. definitely a 5-star general.
My name's Michael, not East Elder. He's the real general, man.
Definitely.
Look, at the end of the day, it's what it is what it is, mate. I just enjoy it, what I mean?
But thank you for coming and sharing your story and the contribution you made. I think it's it's something that people
need to
hear, need to hear, but underrate. You understand? Because the scene wasn't just made up of people who's here now. There's people's shoulders that we stood up on, and you most definitely are one of them. So nice to hear your story. Hopefully you'll come back. We're going to have a round table, and we're going to invite different promoters in. Cheddar might be here, sitting there.
He'll
Gonna,
be here.
yeah, you know, like you never know.
There's no qualms, you know. No qualms at all.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like
I don't
to
take
hear.
it that way, because how I look at it is what is for you is for you, and I don't hold no malice. In fact, I couldn't even remember exactly the date. I actually called Allaister. I said, when did we actually start? He goes, it was, so there you go. There's no,
that's good.
There's
That's
no
good.
bad vibes. I'm not holding on to no, you know.
Yeah. Wish everybody
You know,
the best.
No, you're setting the record straight.
Setting the trend.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on, Michael. Definitely, we've
It's
learned.
been a pleasure being here.
Just before you go, last thing, you've got a radio show.
Yeah, every Thursday, 11 to 1, Global Soul Radio. I play new
And what do
stuff.
you play?
All new stuff. Occasionally, when I'm in the mood, I might do a reggae groove show, or old school show.
And where can people get hold of you if they need to contact you?
M Dietrich, so that's MDIEDRICK @hotmail.com.
You on Facebook, Instagram, any of
I'm
those,
on
Twitter, and
Facebook,
those
but
things?
I'm not really a social cat like that, you know. Old school.
Kind of a bit reserved. Okay. Thanks a lot once again for coming.
No worries.
Pleasure. Set the trend. We're teaching you a lot, and we're even learning so much from that. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Freshbeat, one of West London's original 5-star generals.
Salutes.
Set the Trend podcast. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're also on Instagram and on Twitter. You can have a great conversation with our Reggie Styles because he's prolific on that. So make sure you like, share, and tell everybody. Until the next time, see you later.